Hello, Alphas. This is Angelo again with episode 56 of Early Access Podcast. And thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for telling a friend. I got a lot to talk about. There's been a lot going on lately. I don't know why this is peaking so much. Sometimes my microphone likes to work better than usual. First thing I want to do is give away the Orbitor key that I put on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter at Early Access PC, I give away games every once in a while. Like I gave away the gigantic prize packs. So only got 5 entries for this key, so we're gonna give it away. So this is a little randomizer site. I just punched in everybody's Twitter handle, and here we go. Congratulations at Ivan Apostolov. I will be contacting you shortly once I am done with the podcast to send you your key. Congratulations, Ivan. He's been a fan of this site for a while. He tends to enter most of the contests. I don't think this is the first thing he's won either, so good for him though. Alright, we can close that now. Alright, first thing I wanted to talk about was, I just pulled this is off of Forbes, but it's been all over the internet, and it's the whole, like, Jimmy Kimmel talking trash about the like, streaming and esports and, making some jokes, and, the internet blew up, especially because the gaming community is very large. However, you got to take a joke. Jimmy Kimmel, he's a funny guy. He gets it. I don't think he's that ignorant that he doesn't understand that it's a big industry. The saying is, don't poke the troll. Jimmy Kimmel, that's his shtick. He's the biggest troll. He wants you to push back. He wants content. So that's exactly what everybody gave him. I'm embarrassed by the comments that were made on some of the YouTube videos as a gamer, because I got it. I got that it was a joke. I found it funny. It's you got to be able to laugh at yourself, and the way the internet took to this is just embarrassing. It was a lot of like death threats and just horrible things. It's a joke. Take it. And that's what Forbes is actually saying. I didn't even realize it in this article, but that's what they're talking about in this article as well. And just learn to take a joke. It's not all serious. Life isn't so serious. I don't think that most people are that stupid, especially somebody that's as plugged in as he has to be. So, take a joke, relax. Don't get so mad about little jokes about our community. I understand that you want to take everything serious, and we should, but that's not the fight to pick. The fight to pick is support the ESL and what they're doing with drug screening for competitive events. Continue supporting the tournaments and the games that actually make it to ESPN, stuff like that. Just don't cast a negative light onto the community. It was hard. It's hard enough to be where we are now compared to where we were a few years ago, and this kind of shit talking essentially doesn't look good on the community, especially when we're trying to break into more of a mainstream thing to better the esports community. You want esports to keep getting bigger. Shit like this isn't going to help, especially in the public's eye. And the mainstream media is going to eat it up, just like it's happening. So do it for yourselves and do it for the future of competitive gaming. You're not going to get anywhere by being a bunch of children, honestly. So just trust me, it'll all be better if we just act appropriate to what's going on. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I think it's a pretty big topic, so I couldn't really like gloss over it. The other thing I wanted to talk about, actually, I do have the link up here. Okay, this is from Wired, but this is all over the internet, and I think it's kind of relevant considering that somebody, accused me of being paid to do a review. So recently, Machinima and Microsoft basically given a pass by the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, because back in March of 2014, it turned out that Xbox was paying Machinima to have their influencers. Influencers? Yeah. Influencers. I don't know. One of those is wrong. Influences. I don't know. The YouTube contributors on the Machinima group, I don't know, YouTube network, they were being paid to make positive videos for the Xbox One right around post-launch or pre-launch. I think this started then when the Xbox was coming out. So it turns out that Microsoft gave Machinima a bunch of money. They then turned around and gave that money to a bunch of people, but nobody was saying that any of it was paid advertising. And that's where the problem arose. So what happened was, in some instances, there was a couple YouTubers that were paid somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 to make these videos, but it wasn't made clear by Microsoft or Machinima that they needed to acknowledge that they were being paid for these videos. There's actually, in the Wired article, they link to the actual formal complaint against the parties, Microsoft and Machinima, and one of the things that it mentions is exactly what the videos should entail, and I just want to go over it real quick. So it says, respondent directed each influencer to include in their first video review a montage of 360 footage talking over a game playing on the 360, 2 to 3 talking points detailing what you're looking forward to in the Xbox One, announce that you'll be playing Rise early, so they got pre-release builds, pre-release copies of Rise, which was a launch title for the Xbox One. The video had to be at least 2 minutes, and it had to showcase Microsoft products in positive light. So essentially, they were paying for positive reviews. The problem is everybody got away with a smack on the wrist, essentially. Machinima could be fined up to $16,000, but there is no plans to have them actually pay any fines. And then Microsoft literally walked away with nothing. All that was said was by the FTC, and this is a quote from the Wired article, and I'm assuming from the FTC, it says, the failures to disclose here appear to be isolated incidences that occurred in spite of, and not in the absence of, policies and procedures designed to prevent such lapses. We are pleased that the FTC recognized Microsoft has vigorous compliance processes and procedures for sponsored campaigns. This is coming from Microsoft. Microsoft said this in an email statement. So they got to walk away from this scot-free. It doesn't surprise me. Microsoft is a pretty big company. The wording on how paid advertisement works is kind of, as far as having to actually disclose that you're being paid by the advertising, the wording isn't the best. And it seems like what happened was Microsoft paid Machinima a bunch of money, and then from there, Microsoft's liability was non-existent. They were paying Machinima to to then forward that information onto their YouTube content creators. So they're the ones, Machinima, that's why they were the ones that could have faced the fine. They needed to make sure that these YouTubers were fully disclosing that they were being paid for the content that they were creating. It does set a precedent, though, excuse me, that if in the future we do come up to a point where now you have to put that into your articles or your reviews or what have you. So now that there's a precedent set that the FTC will step in, you probably are going to be seeing less of it, but it's still going to happen. But this was large sums of money in between two very large companies. Machinima has supposedly 400 million, I want to say subscribers between their entire network of YouTube contributors. So it's a pretty big deal. Now we just got to wait and see how that's going to trickle down to us as regular folk, and what they're going to expect as far as product placements and stuff like that. I know YouTube is already pretty strict with that stuff as far as all that goes. However, I don't think, I'd like to think that most YouTubers and reviewers are honest, but there's always been payola in any industry, in any entertainment industry, in the form of different things. But it comes down to, you have to be honest with your reviews. I just got I just gave away a bunch of that gigantic stuff. And it doesn't mean when that game comes out I'm going to give it a positive review. You just got to promote the games that you want to promote. You can't take money for this kind of shit. It's just not. It's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It just shits on your integrity. As soon as one company's doing it now, what's going to happen is everybody's going to question every article. I saw this originally posted by GameSpot, and you read 2 comments in, and somebody's like, "Yeah, GameSpot's been doing this for years." I don't know whether or not that's true, but that's the beginning of the speculation like that. So hopefully, with the FTC having stepped in, you're going to see less of that happening because of the fear of fines in the future. I'm going to skip this part for now. I'll mention it real quick. There's a new crowdfunding site called Fig. I'm going to talk about it in the next episode because this one's already running a little long. So let me make a quick note of that. Where is it? There we go. Episode 57. So tune in for episode 57. I'm going to talk about this new crowdsourced company started recently called Fig. You can go check it out if you want. In the meantime, it's called fig.co, and it's a curated crowdfunding website that allows you to actually get a percentage of the game sales, kind of like points on the game, but it's a little bit more in-depth than that. But I'll get into it more in the next episode, because I am not using a good podcast host site, and I can't go over 50 megs per upload. So, and this is already running long, and if I get into that, it's gonna be fucking way longer. So let's just get into games that I've been playing. So I played 2 games since the last episode. The first one is Orbitor. Now, Orbitor came out August 21st. It has 10 reviews, 90% positive. I have not put my review on here, so it'll have one more once I get to writing it. It's $14.99. That's the only negative I really have about this game. I think it'll be worth $14.99 when it's finished. As far as an early access title, though, for me, $15 is a little bit much for an early access title. However, if you go watch the YouTube video, I did a first look at this game, and when I initially started playing this game, I had no idea what was happening, because it has no tutorial, and it's very confusing at first. So you're a little spaceship, and it's a momentum-based, physics game. You're in space. The game looks beautiful. It's got great graphics. The music, the soundtrack's awesome. So you're this little satellite, you have a thruster, and what you're doing is you're destroying these little gravity machines, is what they're saying they are. before they destroy the galaxy. So what happens is you're this little ship and you can fly in and you spin around these little other flying satellites and you catch their orbit essentially. And what you can do is you can slow down using the right trigger and then launch in a direction. So you're basically shooting yourself between these different little gravity wells essentially, and then launching yourself into other other satellites, and you're trying to just accumulate the highest score you can, which isn't very clear from the beginning. But so I started off being completely confused, and by the end of the half an hour, I was just completely engaged in this game. The gameplay is so simple, but once you get the hang of it, you want to beat your score, and there's something calming and competitive about it, like against yourself. And I don't know, just after a little bit of time with it, I found myself just like zoning out. There's periods of times where in the video where I just didn't say anything because I was just in the zone basically. It's a really beautiful looking game. I think as more content rolls out, it'll be worth the $15. So if you want to jump in now and get your hands on it, I would totally go pick it up. But there's just something about it that just it controls really well. It just feels good, and it's immersive in a way that's kind of surprising for a game that's essentially just like an arcade scoring game. Like you're just trying to get as many points as you can. There's no leaderboard yet. I'm assuming that's stuff that's going to be coming down in the future. But go check it out. It's called Orbitor. Link is in the show notes. I dropped my pen. Next game I played is this game called Gunnheim. Now, if you watch the video for this, also on the YouTube, it started off kind of positively. I was like, oh, you know what? It's a twin-stick shooter. It's got Viking mythology. It has a lot of positive reviews, 21, 90% positive. It's $10, so it's right around what my price point would be. And it looks cool. It reminds me of a Blizzard game. It's got a very cartoon art style. And so it's a typical twin-stick shooter, but this is like, top-down. You're moving around like different environments. It seems procedurally generated. The character designs are really cool. The weapons are neat. There's varied different weapons. But what happens is this game started to fall apart for me, and if you watch the video, I got progressively more irritated by this game. So for a twin-stick shooter, it just doesn't control very well, which is something it needs to do. You have to be able to control the game well, and it just doesn't. The twin stick, like the movement feels kind of just off. It's hard to explain. It's just like you don't move very fluidly, and it just felt off. It was just weird. And then couple that with the fact that the hitboxes on the enemies wasn't good. So when you're aiming, you think you're aiming at something, and it's like off by a fraction of a hair, but it's enough where you're missing the enemy. And then on top of that, the weapon, the main weapon that you have is there's only two characters, I think, at least the two that I saw in the quick look. The one guy has a machine gun, the other guy has a shotgun. They have recoil. So with poor movement and the recoil pushing your character back a little bit at a time, when you're holding down the trigger for the machine gun, you're shooting all over the place and you're moving backwards. So you got to constantly trying to aim, or readjust your aiming, and it's just incredibly frustrating. Besides that, you can fall off the edges of the map. You can't rotate the camera around the map, so what happens is sometimes you get enemies that are hidden behind portions of the map that you just can't see, and since it's procedurally generated, sometimes the enemies, the placement on the levels are always the same kinda. So you might find like a boss character, he's always going to be in the same general area, but sometimes they're not in the same spot. You get caught off guard and you get knocked off the map because poor controlling, or it's just, I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't feel right. So I can't recommend it at this time. maybe it'll be something that'll be fixed over time, but it's just there's just something about it that just kind of feels weird, and it just makes it not fun to play, which is a shame because, like I said, it looks really good. It's got this cool like metal soundtrack. It's got some neat character designs and everything, but it just doesn't control well, which for me, it's on a twin stick shooter, and that is not something that you can. It's just not okay. Like it'll never play well if it doesn't control well. So that's all I've played since the last episode. I played a shitload of Diablo 3 as well, actually. I got way into the new season, and I just can't put it down. I've always been a fan of the Diablo series, and I just keep playing the shit out of it. Alright, so only 4 early access games came out since the last episode, so we're going to burn through these real quick. None of them seem all that great to me, but you know, I'm sure some of these somebody will like. The first one is a SimCity style sim game, strategy simulator. This is like an economic simulator. It's called Industry Transporters. God, excuse me. I just keep coughing. It's got 81% positive out of 11 reviews. So, you know, how many of those are friends and stuff like that? It's $9.99, and yeah, like I said, it's a 3D old like SimCity style building game. That's really it. It says you can choose from a large variety of wares and buildings to build up your production chain and use up to 4 types of transportation. Seems really cool. There's like I see a train. I don't know if there's like airplanes or something. Yeah, there's airplanes and cars. You know, it seems more of like an economic simulator, which is what it says, than like, you know, your traditional SimCity game. But you know, go check it out. It's not something I would be into, but you know, what do I know? So what is this crap? So this game's called Dragonflight. It's got 100% positive out of 11 reviews. It is $15.99, but it's 15% off until the 7th of September. So it's $13.59 right now. What are you doing, cat? Bob, knock it off. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it. My cat's freaking out over here. I think she got her head stuck in my monitor. So Dragonflight is a fast-paced aerial combat game. You're a dragon fighting other dragons. It says it's single-player and has VR support. So you're fighting other dragons, you're flying around. It looks pretty neat. I'm not a big fan. I haven't really got my hands on any of the VR stuff, so I don't know how well that stuff would work. It looks neat. It just reminds me of other games. But you can go check it out. I mean, it's a little bit pricey if you're looking for VR games, though. There's not too many of them, and they do come out on occasion here on early access. All right, this next game is called Containment Protocol. Has 1 review, and it is positive. It is $5 on Steam. Early access, came out August 31st, and it says it's an action adventure indie game. It looks like you're piloting a drone. Let's see, yeah, you're controlling a drone, and it's got a rotating radar. So as you're flying around, the walls are appearing around you on this giant grid that looks like, you know, graph paper. It's an interesting concept. So, you know, it's only revealing what's within the radar area. Let's see. It just says their last communication only had 2 words in it. Containment Protocol. Your task is to infiltrate the facility using a prototype remote control drone and work out what has happened to the facility and, more importantly, what has happened to the weapon. Yeah, it looks like you have to manage your battery and do stuff. It doesn't. Okay, that door's locked. So you're it's an adventure game essentially. It looks pretty cool. I don't know. Go check it out. It's only $5. Yeah, I don't know. It looks pretty neat for an early access game. All right, the next game is called Monsters. Monsters. It's got an exclamation point. Monsters. Came out September 1st. Does not have any reviews yet. It is $4.99, and it's a pixel art style twin stick shooter. It says it's gonna have leaderboards. It looks cute. It just looks like a twin stick shooter. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. But that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. Let's see, I wanted to mention something. Oh, yes. So I started an Instagram account for the podcast. It is early access on Instagram. Early access on Instagram. I'll be doing contests on there as well. They'll probably be the same contests that I do on the Twitter account. So go follow over there. I'll post some pictures every once in a while of, just games I'm playing and just, bullshit. But you can go check that out. Normal stuff. Subscribe to YouTube, Early Access Podcast on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Early Access PC. Now you can go follow the Instagram, Early Access on Instagram. If you have any comments or questions, email the show at email@earlyaccesspodcast.com. Click through the Amazon banner. I moved it to the bottom of the page because I just felt like it was a little bit obtrusive being at the top of the page, and I haven't figured out how to put it in as a banner at the header yet. So it's dropped down to the bottom right-hand corner of the website. You can use that link. Whenever you buy anything off of Amazon, it really does help out the show. But other than that, guys, this is Angelo for Early Access Podcast, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.